It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Renee Ritchie's here, Andy Iannacco, Alex Lindsay. Renee's got the new MacBook for the first time in a long time. MacBreak Weekly has Macintosh news. We'll also talk about two things Apple's selling you should not buy and why the T2 chip is more than just a fingerprint reader. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 619, recorded Tuesday, July 17th, 2018. Liquid Steak. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Slack. Slack is a collaboration hub for work that makes sure the right people on your team are always in the loop, and key information is always at their fingertips. Learn more at slack.com. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans, introducing Rate Shield Approval. If you're in the market to buy a home, Rate Shield Approval locks up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. It's a real game changer. Learn more and get started at rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly. We're going to talk about Apples. And yes, we're going to talk about Macintoshes. Yes. Andy Iannacco's here. It's formerly Chicago Sun-Times, now just Iannacco.com. Hello, Andrew.
I am a rock. I am a mountain. And a rock needs no newspaper. A newspaper causes pain.
Great to have you and your Canadian teapot. Also, Renee Ritchie from imore.com.
New Adams, Leo. I have new Adams.
Oh, I can't wait. We're going to be talking about the new MacBook. He's already got his. Mine's coming soon. And we will talk to Alex Lindsay, who's in Washington, D.C. today, the nation's capital.
Yes, where it's boring and nothing's happening here. And no one's upset.
Quiet. Nobody's upset. Nothing's happening.
Everything's fine.
You know what you should do? You should celebrate. It's World Emoji Day. And the Emojipedia gang, Jeremy and company, sent us emoji cupcakes.
Oh, my God.
Who wants the poop cupcake? I'm sure.
Leo, it's a cupcake first.
I'm sure it's a cupcake before it's anything else. So we've got a happy face. This is so nice, Jeremy. Thank you. You're so awesome. Emojipedia gang. And then this intermingled with like just regular cupcakes. What's amazing is he found a bakery to do this. Look at that.
So great.
Isn't that incredible?
You know what? So last week you had cupcakes in the studio for Alex, and this week you got cupcakes for Emoji. Next week I'm going to buy myself cupcakes, and you're not going to have any, and you'll get this watch me have cupcakes and think, oh, I wish I had a cupcake.
I'm going to send you, just for you, the poop cupcake. It's all yours.
I had some cupcakes.
Cupcakes.
Them all.
That's not poop.
All.
That's just a delicious pile of chocolate ice cream.
It's chocolate soft serve.
Yeah.
That's it. You have a very, very promising career in government. You're actually calling it ice cream.
It's not
like a
raining.
It's a secret plan to fight inflation.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Jeremy Bruge and team, everybody over there at the Emojipedia. And actually, we'll be talking about there are new emojis coming to iOS 12. 70 of them.
Leo?
No Twitmoji, but there's a peacock, a ball of string, and guess what? A cupcake, as well as other baked goods.
There's a bagel. There's a frozen Canadian face, which I'm sure is Canadian because it's frozen.
Wow, we'll get to that in a little bit. But I did want to thank Jeremy for the poop cake, and the happy face cake.
Cup poop.
It is a celebratory. Where do you get emoji? That's good. That's pretty special. I bet you that's a special order. All right.
100 ASCII graham cupcakes.
Now, Renee Ritchie, you went down to New York.
Yes, sir.
You lucky dog. Because there are new Macintosh computers in the offing.
Right here for you, Laporte.
And I know you got Space Gray. Of course you did.
Yep, 15-inch.
Now, you got the Now, is this a review unit or did you buy this?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is Apple-owned hardware.
Okay. Because I bought one.
I'm still vacillating over. I was so sure when they were talking to me that I was going to go for the 15-inch, 4 terabyte And then I'm like, I saw the price, and I'm like, that 13-inch 2 terabyte looks more than enough computer for me.
I did, I bought it for review purposes because I don't have any clout with Apple, but that's fine. I prefer to, honestly.
Well, I usually get the review unit so I can have it right away, and then I buy one, and I get to sort of figure out which one I'm going to buy.
Turns out you could get it right away if you didn't do a BTO, a build to order. You could get it and go to the Apple Store. But of course, I did a BTO. Let's just walk through my thought process. Well, if you're going to get it 15 inches, because this is a pro device, right? This is not by any means a consumer device.
An iMac in a bag.
Yeah. So the 15s start at $23.99, but you don't want that one. You want, one with a little more chutzpah.
You want an i9, Leo.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's a good thought. I did want an i9. I was actually, the day before Apple announced this, shopping the ThinkPads for an i9. It's only $300 more. It's not that. The i9, is it a big difference between the i9 and i7, or is it just those 3 little gigahertz?
So, I mean,
gigahertz. It
is and it isn't. Like, the Apple is doing what Apple always does, and they are using the absolute ultra highest spec Intel chips. Now, I asked a lot of people, and no one is everyone says, oh, Apple's late, or they're using the same. No, they're not using the same chips as everybody else. They are using like the top of the top chips they can possibly get, which are slightly different than the ones that everyone else is already selling. So if you want that, Leo, like if you want the Mercedes you want Mercedes, you want the AKG version of it, and that's what all these
And
are.
I suspect part of the reason they do that is they don't want people to do price shopping. Say,
you can do it. It's just that it's the most expensive possible part that you can comparison shop.
Yeah, I think actually that's what Apple did all around, didn't they? I mean, that's the thing that's. So let's just spec it out.
Yes.
So I got the i9. I did do that. Now, if you notice that the 4 terabyte solid state drive adds $3,200 to the price, you might hesitate. 2 terabytes, well, that's a mere $1,200. And since you were going to get $800 ding for getting the 1 terabyte, might as well just, So
the 4 terabytes are two 2 terabytes in Scary RAID with a custom controller.
Oh, not good. We don't like Scary RAID. So 2 terabytes is 1 unit? Do you think?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's soldered on.
Well, they're chips. Yeah, they're chips. It's just they don't actually make a 4 terabyte version of that.
Important to understand, though, this is not upgradable in any form or fashion.
No.
That's it. You get what you get, and you're stuck with it.
You can sell it and buy a new computer, but you can't change it.
So I got the 2 terabytes. Final Cut Pro, I already have it. Logic Pro, well, that was it. That's all I could choose. Well, where's my 32 gigs of RAM?
Yeah, that was there too, Leo.
Oh, let's put that in there. This is the first Apple laptop with capability.
Now, this is DDR4, so it's not as power efficient as the low power DDR3 they're using in the 13-inch, but to compensate for it, they put a slightly bigger battery in, and to compensate for that, they took atoms out of the rest of the computer to keep the same weight.
Yeah, I fixed it and noticed that the battery's heavier, but the laptop's not. So somehow,
I mean, Apple stated that at the announcement, so they're not hiding it.
iFixit thinks that maybe they shaved down some of the aluminum in the top of the device. In any event,
they filled it with helium or something.
So we've got now a i9, 32 gigs, 2 terabytes, $4,699. It's still less than my iMac Pro. Yeah. Is it? How would you think it compares to an iMac Pro, though? I mean, it's
I joked with them last year. I'm like, I would love an iMacBook Pro, and they sort of looked at me, ha 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 ha. And then it turns out that if you get this, and then you get an eGPU as a docking station, and one of those LG 5K monitors, you essentially have not an iMac Pro because those are Xeon processors, but a pretty, top flight iMac that you can take the bottom part off and travel with.
Well, actually, don't you get better single core performance in the MacBook?
You do. So it depends on what workload you want.
Yeah.
If you want, what was it, 18 cores?
Right. I got a 10-core iMac Pro with a lower single clock speed.
Yes.
But it's 4 more cores. But that's a very specific use case. You have to have an application that's going to use.
And it's also like its durability. Like everything in the iMac Pro is like it's ECC. It's built to be server workstation class.
Alex?
Yeah, I think that, the biggest problem with most of the MacBooks is that their GPUs are not not very good.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even see a GPU choice here. That I think because we got the top of the line, we got the upgraded 560X. That is
Intel did not ship a better Intel. So it was so hard for Intel to get Coffee Lake out. They basically didn't do anything with the GPUs this year. And the 13-inch uses the integrated. So the 13-inch uses the integrated. Apple couldn't use the integrated for the 15-inch. Apple still can't work with NVIDIA. So they went with AMD.
Yeah. Plus, they co-developed an external GPU alongside this, didn't they?
They co-developed with Blackmagic. Yes, you can get a Blackmagic with the Vega that you get in the iMac Pro.
Yeah, let's look at that Blackmagic eGPU. It's still not a super fast.
Yeah, I don't quite. I mean, I get the idea of building something, and I'm a big Blackmagic fan, but I didn't understand this one. I looked at it. I was like, well, for most of us that are going to really want this, we're going to want more.
There are other companies that make this is cheap. This is only $700.
It was mostly designed for people who wanted quiet.
And it's really a dock too, right? Because it has a bunch of ports on it.
Yeah, it's a docking station, and it was designed for developers who would go for an iMac or MacBook Pro, but they don't want the big fan. And you can call them fussy developers if you want, but they just want to plug in their Vive, do their work, and not hear a fan about it.
No, I can see supporting a Vive on it on your laptop. I mean, your laptop to a Vive actually makes a fair bit of sense if you're developing, if you're doing something for it really is enough GPU to support a 360 development on on Final Cut and other things like that. So I can see that makes more sense. For most of us that want really soup up our computers, you want one that you can put whatever you want in there, continue to upgrade it, and possibly have more than one.
Right. This is a Radeon Pro 580. It's kind of a middle-of-the-road GPU. It's nowhere near a 1080 Ti or anything like that.
The case is really nice.
Can you not get an eGPU that will allow you to use other?
You can, and you can even if you don't mind messing with drivers and stuff, you can try and see if you can get an NVIDIA to run in it. So you can get. Apple said that there's a ton of those options out there, but they did hear from a certain element of developer community who just wanted something quiet. And I remember remarking on that when we did the iMac Pro demos. They had Cinema 4D and a bunch of developers in there, and they would turn on the eGPUs, and man, were they powerful! But all of a sudden, it was fan everywhere.
So if I max out that device by putting in the 4 terabyte drive, we now get it up to $6,700. That's all the way up. That's going to 11.
This is not a complaint, just an observation. I have never paid that much for a car.
Yeah, let alone a laptop.
So, I mean, because Apple is Apple, they had a bunch of people there doing demos for us. And one of the people were the director and editor for Despacito. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The video that's got 6 billion views on YouTube.
Despacito.
They did not edit it on this computer because it wasn't around then. But as soon as they got it, they put the whole thing on there. And they said that for them, in their business, which the bottleneck is always the performer. Like getting the performer on the phone is the most important thing in the world for them. They could put the entire 5K red video file, no optimized media, no scaled down media, nothing, no proxy media. Could have the whole thing on there. They could edit it. It would render in half the time it took to play. So twice real time. They could send them an iPhone, because that's apparently what everybody does now. They just send you iPhone versions for you to prove. And if they wanted anything changed, they could just re-render one, send it back in 2 minutes, have another change. And their most important thing, more than time, more than money, was not having to deal with external storage, not having to deal with proxy media anymore.
So if you that was the $6,700 option. If you don't do any customization, you can get the 13-inch MacBook Pro without, with a 2.3 gigahertz i5. That's 4 cores. It's 8 gigs of RAM, not 32 or 16, and a 256 gig SSD. That's $17.99. So that's the base price. You cannot get any of these without the touch bar.
Yes.
That's a given now. They did not.
They're not abandoning the non-touch bar one, but they're not talking about it.
They did not update the MacBook Escape, as some people call it, because it has a real escape key. And maybe even more notably, they didn't update any other long overdue updates for the MacBook or the MacBook Air or the iMac Mini or Mac Mini, or even just the iMac. What Apple has done in the last 2 years is focused on the high-end Pro market, the premium market. And Alex, you've said this many times, the pros are not price sensitive.
No. These are not. I mean, about 4,500 is about what I've spent on most of my laptops in the last 10 years. I mean, when you start adding up all the little bits and pieces, because you try to soup it all up to what you need, because you're using that every day, and theoretically, it's generating revenue most of the time. So if you're doing this as a business and you are buying the newest thing, you're probably making money at it, and that is generating revenue. And that's the price of a small camera or a lens or anything else. I mean, when it's a tool of the trade, it's just an entirely different calculation. Would I buy one of these for myself just to play with? Like, no, probably not. but for work, it makes sense. I'm still hanging on to I travel so much that just the idea of going away from my MagSafe is still holding me back.
Note that Apple did discontinue the 15-inch 2015 MacBook Pro. Which is what
I have now. It's not like I'm upgrading.
Yeah, that's what I have too. That's what I'm replacing. And I'm hoping. So it isn't just the Touch Bar. It's the Touch Bar with the new T2 chip, the same one in the Mac Pro. So that means Hey Siri works. You don't have to press a button.
It uses the coprocessor for Hey Siri.
Is there anything else that the T2 is adding?
Sorry, Siri decided to answer me. The T2, so the T2 gives you the same functionality that you have in the iMac Pro, which is secure boot, real-time encryption, and it basically consolidates all the controllers. So instead of having discrete controllers for a lot of the different components, all those controllers are now in the T2, which is, I think, essentially like an A8 or A9 hybrid.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, privately on Twitter, but I may as well do it now. I've been trying. Have they upgraded the microphone array at all to support Hey Siri, or is it still the same sort of like chat microphone sort of situation?
They have not. They said that the microphone system from FaceTime was capable of doing what they needed for Hey Siri. For Siri,
yes, that's it. Sorry, that one bothers me. I think that whenever they redesign the next MacBooks, I think they need to put in omnidirectional microphones, because Siri is useful to you when you're not like right directly in front of the screen. If you're right in front of the screen, why not just type it? Why not just use your keyboard to do that? So nice move though.
No, I asked them about that right away, because I also wanted them to have fancy new mics in there, because they have that whole audio system team, and I just want them to do everything now.
I was kind of surprised that they didn't start adding stuff like depth sensors into the into this for Face ID and so on and so forth. To kind of incorporate all of that. The iPad does that. Sorry.
Yeah, the iPad is getting them next. So they're going to get all the iPad stuff next, and then they're going to.
It just seems like when you're updating this, it would be the time to do it. But of course,
but that makes sense. We see this big gap where how much retooling would they have to do to the MacBook Pro line in order to accommodate all this stuff, not only in the front bezel but also underneath the keyboard. And given that they did a huge and not entirely successful rev a couple of years ago, that's not on. I'm more curious to see what happens when they decide to make the consumer iMacs and the consumer MacBooks, which I believe are going to be pretty damn different from what we're seeing right now. That if they're basically they're making this part of the first wave of real next generation Macs with more of these iOS hardware features, not just software features.
But it's not a redesign in the sense that the hardware, the outsides are designed differently at all, right?
No,
it's a spec bump.
I'd be happy if they did that, but no.
Well, that brings us to the keyboard.
Apple
and Gruber pointed this out. Apple's not going to say we've made these more reliable for liability reasons. They say that we made them quieter, which led to a lot of people, including Justine and Dieter Bohn, doing recordings of the keyboards. And for all I could tell, it didn't seem much of a difference. How about you, Renee? Do you feel
I asked about this. So they were not. It's not that they didn't do anything. They said they were not discussing anything to do with that.
Oh, good. So that confirms what Gruber kind of inferred, which is they would never say it if they did.
No, I mean they might. I mean the people in that room might, but there's probably other people in other rooms who would not let them say that if they had their brothers. But what they did talk about is not just that. They said that one of the biggest complaints they did get was noise, and if you go back and look at some of the original 2016 MacBook reviews, they all talk about how loud this keyboard is.
It is pretty clickety-clackety. Yeah.
And they said it significantly reduced the loudness, but it wasn't volume, it was tone. It's like you can deal with different tones have different thresholds of annoyance when it comes to volume, according to them. So they changed, they did I forget the right word. Baffle, I think, is the word Dieter used, but I forget what the word they used was. But it was also a change in tone that they said made it not as egregious.
Were you able to hear that?
Yeah, I've been using it all weekend, and it was weird. I almost didn't like it as much at first because it didn't feel quite as crisp. And I know I'm at the opposite end of the typing scale from a lot of my friends, but I like a real crisp, and it felt a little bit more like the older keyboards, a little bit loosier, goosier. But I adapt quickly to that. So after 2 days, I didn't notice it anymore.
Was able to take apart the keyboard and note that they have added a silicone barrier that looks like it's a crumb guard to each key.
It's a noise baffle crumb guard hybrid toaster.
It's the cummerbund, the Mac keyboard cummerbund.
Yeah, so it may in fact be more robust. They'd be foolish not to do something to address that issue.
They've revved this keyboard every year. I don't recall them ever revving a keyboard as much as
they don't call it the Butterfly 3.
They do. It's a Generation 3.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is why we keep saying that the new stuff is really good, but they're not going to figure out when they do a complete redesign of something, they're not going to figure out if they got that design right until they've got hundreds of thousands or millions in people's hands, and then you see the revision B and then the revision C, and those are the ones that really, really prove the pudding.
So you would say don't order this yet? Wait.
Well, no, I'm saying don't. That's the disadvantage. Realize that if you've been waiting a couple of years for the new one to come out, realize that there might be things that if you waited an extra year for the revision B, there might be benefits that you will get that have nothing to do with the specs. Basically, reliability, little things like, oh, we didn't realize that dust was going to accumulate in this part of the fan box, and this is why the fan is now making more noise at 6 months than it did at 6 days. I did spend a couple hours at two different. I don't own one yet. I haven't gotten a loaner yet, but I did spend a couple of hours typing in two different Apple stores on them, and okay, I couldn't feel that much. I still don't like it, but I can't really feel that much of a difference.
So we have here one person who likes the Butterfly keyboard, Renee.
Yes.
And then three of us, I think, who do not. But only one of us actually owns one of these. I'm still waiting for mine. It
won't. If your concern was the actual keyboard, it will change nothing. If your concern was the reliability of the keyboard, then odds are Apple's gotten closer to making.
Well, it's a little bit of both. I didn't want a keyboard that's going to fail on me, obviously. And I did buy AppleCare, which I don't usually do. I did buy AppleCare on this. It's such an expensive device.
Everything.
Yeah.
I do think. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were trying to say. Okay, I'll just quickly say it does underscore the idea that Apple doesn't believe the keyboard is defective. I don't believe it either. But when we would have seen a larger change, not just in the first, but by the second revision of this keyboard, if they were getting lots of data saying that no, these are failing, this is not just a legal liability, but this is a point of disappointment with our customers, we would have seen a new keyboard design, something really radical, more than just a tweak to the existing design. So if nothing else, this indicates that this is simply a design that is controversial, but Apple continues to believe in it.
And also, I mean, people forget that Apple's a ginormous company, and they act like a bunch of small units. They also do have things like SAP implementations that come with giant companies. And a lot of the stuff when it deals with failure rates is, did it hit this number? If this number of failures gets hit, this alarm goes off, and some human has to come and look at it and make, like, a lot of that is purely procedural. And as far as I can tell, it is not hitting the alarm bell stage like what they did with the batteries. When you actually, like, this is a reactive thing. If you have a problem, come in and replace it. The battery's like, no, bring your computer in and we will change it for you.
So here's I'll throw this out and you guys tell me I'm wrong. I'm starting to see maybe a way to a strategy that makes sense for Apple with regard to Macintosh and iOS, which is that perhaps they're seeing the Macintosh and Mac OS. They know they have to continue it at least to make apps for iOS, right? And I think they would like the gloss that professional photographers and filmmakers add to a product by endorsing it and supporting it. But it strikes me that maybe they're thinking that the consumer products are not that important. Those people, maybe people who would buy a MacBook, should maybe consider using an iPad. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. Did you ask him about whether they're going to update any of the lower-end Macintosh products, Renee?
Yeah, I mean, their classic line is we're here to discuss these products, but it sounded like these were just the next ones up. And as we go into the fall, we'll have discussions about the other ones. And I think what you're saying is sort of true, but I also think that Apple made a series of not totally interconnected, but not totally disconnected either, errors. Like the Mac Pro went the wrong way, and they saw the massive success of mainstream computing with the iPhone and the halo effect, and people who wanted to buy Macs because they owned iPhones, and they had different needs than the traditional Mac customer. Like when they say that these MacBook Pros sold well, they mean it. These MacBook Pros sold well, but they did not resonate with the traditional Apple Pro customer. They were part of the new generation of founders and developers and people who had very different, more mobile needs. And I think they realized that, at first they thought, oh, maybe these old pros are just grumpy and they'll come around if we give them a year. And they realized, no, we made a miscalculation and we can ignore that. And some analysts say, please get rid of the Mac, go all in on iOS. You're just wasting money there. But I think Apple still very much wants to be a Mac company, and it hurt them that the pros were not happy. And this is the iMac Pro, which was already planned, but the new Mac Pro and these new MacBook Pros and going to DDR4 RAM, for example, which I don't think was originally part of the plan, is part of a process of making good with that traditional community.
I don't think it's a bad strategy to say we're going to make the Macintosh a premium product at a premium price for people who really need that power, and we're not going to focus that much on low-end Mac OS. Why should they?
I think it makes sense. I think that most of your most users who are using a Mac that are consumers really could use an iPad. I'm spending more and more time trying to use an iPad for stuff that I normally do on my Mac. So I'm trying to see where as we discussed this, I've been trying to figure out where is that crossover. So I'm forcing myself to, work in Pages and build Numbers docs and build, Keynote docs and work with other apps to try to figure out when do I stop and say I can't do this on an iPad, and I go back to the computer. And I think that they are definitely very quickly running to a point where I don't feel like I need for a lot of this kind of stuff. Definitely for web surfing, for writing emails, writing documents. I can get a keyboard for my iPad and it's just fine. In fact, it's better. Working in Pages on an iPad is actually better than working on your computer because you can draw on it. So you go. The thing is that this is the whole problem with these Macs and why I think that they'd have an explosive. If they brought back the MagSafe, which they won't, but the touch screen I think is a big piece of it. Not because I'm going to sit there for 10 hours, touching my screen, but what happens is when you're on an iPad and you're in Pages, you start typing and you go, okay, I want a picture right here, and you just draw on the thing of a sketch of this is what I'm going to put in here, and then you keep on working. You can't do that on your Mac. And then what you get into is you start doing this thing where you work on your Mac and then you go to your iPad when you want to start adding the images or when you want to start doing some other stuff. If you're sharing it between the two of them on iCloud, it takes a couple seconds. It's not like Google Docs. It's like 10 or 15 seconds. It pops up over there. So, but there's a lot of, I think that for a consumer, I don't think that laptops are going to make sense, except for people who have been using them their whole life. But I think that if you were just starting now, it wouldn't make any sense to get anything other than an iPad until you started doing professional level work.
Right. And then you're going to want to spend a little more for a professional level.
And you spend
computer.
it and you have it and you need it. Absolutely.
I'm not uncomfortable with that. I don't know if that's Apple's strategy. And I don't think it'll happen this year. I think they will update at least once more the consumer grade stuff. But I feel like this makes sense as a long-term strategy. Andy?
My thinking has changed in the past couple of months where I think that Apple now believes not specifically in specific products or even specific platforms. I think that their enthusiasm is for a specific mission. And I think that the mission of the consumer Macintosh, they think is now better served by higher end iPads, where they can create a really friendly, the thing that people associated with the consumer level Macs is that we would recommend them to our friends and family because they're just not going to give you any trouble. They're going to work. There's going to be really good creative software for it. And I don't mean like for creative purposes, but I mean that the people who write software for this are going to be very, very creative in how they solve a problem. And I think that, once again, they're thinking more along the lines of the iPad is much better suited, and also the iPhone in there is much better suited for the mission of the original Macintosh, particularly given that they can build a kick butt iPad and sell it for $329. I mean, that is, I really think that that's one of the most significant products that Apple has ever shipped from day one. It's a miracle, and it's a wonderful value, and it's within reach of most moderately priced users. And I think that now they're saying the mission of the profession of suiting the people, the creators, the people who are making software, the people who are making movies, the people who are making photographs, is best served by a Pro and Mac, which is, I think, why that was the first problem that they decided to solve, which is people are not, our Pro customers are not happy with the Mac Pro. We need to address that really, really quick. We need to make sure that they have Macintoshes that can do not only do the jobs they want to do, but do it in the situations in which they like to do them. So I would not be surprised. I still don't believe that Apple will, the consumer grade Macs as we have come to know them, I don't think they're going to continue to exist after the next 2 or 3 years, certainly not by the next 5. But I don't believe it's because they're abandoning consumers. I think it's because, once again, they love the mission of the Macintosh. Yes. They just think that their customers will be much more happy if they solve that mission with an iPad.
That's exactly my point of view, Andy, but we'll see. I mean, they could surprise us all.
Yep.
One thing that is kind of surprising is that they took the True Tone display from the iPad Pro and they put it in the laptop. That's not something photographers want or filmmakers.
Yes. So they had a bunch. They had several people there. They had a gentleman who does gigapixel photography. He does the Beauty and the Beast project, and they had someone who does environmental photography who goes and documents the different parts in Greenland. And they all had different answers. And I also asked a bunch of photographers, and some of them are like, "No, I never have it on," and some are like, "I turned it on. I'm never turning it off."
Oh, really?
And others had a hybrid approach, and they're like, "I shoot in so many different conditions, and I just want to batch process things. And I'm in a tent 1 minute, I'm in a forest the next minute. I have torchlight, then I have incandescent light, and I just leave it on because I just want to work, and then I turn it off when I do the final edit."
That makes sense.
Everyone had a different opinion, but all of them had a lot of things to say about it.
The issue, of course, is accuracy, because True Tone is going to tilt the screen towards the ambient lighting.
But the external lighting is going to make the screen look more blue or more yellow, some felt anyway.
Yeah,
so
right.
And
what do you think, Alex? You're the one who uses this.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I don't use it. I like to just set. I like to know what I'm set to. I don't like it changing on me.
Right.
But I, in general, you should either be in a good room to do color correction, or you should not try. Because all of those, like, you shouldn't try to do color correction somewhere else. You should go into a neutral room.
That makes sense.
You take a Spider 5 and you throw it onto your screen. You calibrate your screen. And then you do color correction, and that's the way that's the process. When we were at when I was at ILM, they swapped out our monitors once every 3 months. Some guy would come by and take your monitor and give you a new one. They had, and that's all they did all day was two guys. That's all they did was just change everybody's monitors because we had to do color correction. But we were in controlled environments when you're, so I think the True Tone's fine if you like it changing. I don't like it. I feel like it changes too much, and so I turned it on for a little while and I was like, oh, this is making me crazy. So I turned it off, and I like to just have it be the way it is. And I know not to trust it unless I've calibrated it within the last, literally when I sat down, have I calibrated it? And if I calibrate it, then I can start doing color correction. If I haven't calibrated, I don't make any assumptions that I know what that color is.
What else to say? Battery life is not going to change, even though you've got a bigger battery because of the DDR.
And more cores, like the 13-inch went from 2 to 4, and the 15-inch went from 4 to 6.
Now, what the one you have is a lower end, or is it what is that the i7?
I have the mid-range. Yeah, I have the i7 2 terabyte.
How is the heat on that?
I mean, it's a MacBook, and going back 5 years, if you put your finger right underneath the keyboard, like right underneath where the screen is, it feels warm. But I haven't had it hasn't been any hotter than any other MacBook I've ever had.
Okay. Before the show,
is it true that if you circulate a lot of air underneath it, you're going to get better performance because the CPU isn't getting?
Yeah, you don't want thermal gating. You don't want it to protect the CPU because it's too hot. That'll slow it down.
And that's one of the things when you look at how CPUs are measured. When you do a quick benchmark, you don't know if it's still ungated or if it has been gated or what the performance is.
Thermals are always a problem, especially. I mean, I'm really in some ways worried about the i9 and the 6 cores at that high clock speed.
The high frequency.
If it will ever get to that high clock speed.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on your load. Like some people just need a burst. Like they just need to have something full tilt running, and other people need sustained. And those are sort of different workloads as well.
I'll be honest, if I can just move from picture to picture in Adobe Lightroom and Camera Raw, I'll be happy. And also, for me, it was compile time and Lightroom. Lightroom's such a pig, and that's not Apple's fault. That's That's Adobe's fault. That thing is a pig.
Alex, there's something that I now want to ask you, because you'll know the answer to this. Why don't I see people making an accessory for high performance users that's essentially a forced cold air system that will basically blow cold air into the intakes of a high performance machine to make sure that it will never thermally clog? You see that in cars all the time.
I think that somebody actually did. Right when as you were talking through that, I was like, I think I saw that somewhere.
Well, you can buy these laptop cooling.
And Saturday,
not fans. I mean,
like this, the Noel bird.
No, that's
it's blowing air on.
Yeah, sure. Make it look like a hot plate. That's a good idea. That's good marketing.
This is really interesting. This one actually clips on.
Yeah.
And
like a Collier junction.
Yeah, it's a laptop fan cooler, temperature display, rapid cooling, auto temp detection, 13 wind speed. It goes all the way up to 5,000 RPM. Probably sounds like a jet airplane taking off.
Mm. See, I'm thinking more than a fan. I'm thinking about something that's actually a chiller, something that actually is basically
active cooling as opposed to
I was thinking about. I was just searching while you were doing it. Does anyone do like a liquid cooled stand? Like, and there's someone who's got like some kind of Kickstarter or something that they did a while ago that was called the Tilt, which is, I guess, a liquid cooled for the MacBook Pro. And anyway, it's but I think it looked like it was estimated delivery for 2011. So I don't know if it took off, but. I do think that I'd be curious to see what the real percentage change is. You know, are you getting 5% more, 10% more, or is it really 2 or 3% faster to have it, or is it 50% faster? Like, is that thermal gating really making a difference? And I don't know the answer, but I'm sure that we could start figuring it out. It's a hot day outside. We could take our computer out, test it when it's cold.
Actually, kind of thing that. If I can't imagine that any sort of an active cooling system would be less expensive than it would cost for me to actually buy an air conditioner for this big room. And why should my computer be the only thing that gets cooled off? But
it was hilarious.
Well, but I think that like if it's sitting, these computers get really hot when you're pushing this, all the CPUs. I mean, you turn compressor on and you set it where there's extra instance and it just uses up all of the all the CPUs. It definitely heats up the computer, and I don't know if air conditioning is enough. I mean, I think you do need to get it. I know I try to get it off if I'm doing a lot of compression over a long period of time, I tend to get it off the ground. I mean, I don't have anything special. I just take little things and set it underneath it so it balances on something when I walk away. Just try to make sure it has as much air movement as possible. I
should point out that Lori Gill and Mick Simmons did write an article for iMore a couple of months ago on best cooling pads for the MacBook Pro in 2018. How do I get rid of this? Go away, Amazon.
There should be an X on.
Oh, there it is.
Sorry, it's Prime Day insanity.
And I turned off, you'll be glad to know, my ad blocker on iMore. So there are, Thermaltake makes one. There are some pretty hefty devices.
There were some amazing stories from earlier in the year about people walking around with their phones in the heat and them overheating, so buying ice blocks to hold underneath their phones, and then getting ice burns, getting frostbite from holding the ice block underneath their phone.
That's a bad idea. Yeah.
No, I actually was reading on some support forum where since it's 100 degrees in so many places, a lot of people were getting like on their iPhone 10 like overheat problems. They're sorry, can't do anything right now because I'm overheated. So they just said, well, the iPhone 10 is waterproof. I'll just like put it on or in this bag of ice to cool it down.
Oh.
And I guess they got condensation inside it that made it say, guess what? We're not working at all from now on.
Terrible idea. Yeah.
It's 95% humidity in Montreal today, so I'm just not going outside.
Yeah.
I feel like, well, I'm very excited. I can't wait to get it. I did, so I got a few accessories.
Nice.
Okay.
The sleeve?
Yeah, so I did get the sleeve, and I wish I hadn't because it's $200. And here it is. This is the sleeve.
But it's unicorn leather, Leo.
It must be because that's a lot of money for what is essentially a pouch, 2 pieces of leather stitched together for $200. But it does have something nothing else can have, an Apple on the front. You can barely see it, but it's there.
Can't even see that.
How's the leather? Is the leather really, really soft and supple?
Do not recommend. Instead, $20. This is probably going to protect it better, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is Tom Talk.
That's not cool.
It's not what?
It is. It will.
It's not cool.
It doesn't look cool though. No, it's not cool.
You know what else doesn't look cool? Just in case the keyboard isn't well sealed, I've got a silicone rubber.
Ew.
Ew.
Keyboard lactic.
Is it really red?
Yeah. They had different colors. They have like rainbows, and you could get paintings. You get a Van Gogh. You get Starry, Starry Night. It's just one of those. It's just a little silicone. You just put that right over the top. That'll keep the crumbs out.
There you go.
No?
You got a silicon barrier inside and outside.
Use protection. Remember.
Use protection. Of course, you got to have a cable to charge your phone because there are only Thunderbolt C, Type C connectors. So you got to get that. Although I am actually pleased because this was not too expensive, and Apple offers this. This is the Belkin dock. And it does support 40 gigabyte Thunderbolt 3, and so I think this is probably a useful doohickey. For
You could
$300.
just get the eGPU for 600, Leo.
I know for twice. Yeah, why didn't I do that?
Where's
That
the
has
FireWire 800?
even more ports. This has
Dual link DVI.
display port, 2 Type C connectors, one with its own charger that is 20 volts by 8.5 amps, so 160 watt charger. It's got 2 USB 3. It's got Ethernet. Who needs that? I don't know.
No VGA. How am I going to use it in the office?
Well, it's got giant display port if you want that. Where's the HDMI port? You'd think they'd have HDMI.
It doesn't have HDMI.
Wait a minute. Come
And
on.
is it HDMI 2 or is it only HDMI 1?
There's not any HDMI at all. But
HDMI none.
none.
Wow.
That's a really
That was
$300
that's an
bucks.
oversight.
Yeah, maybe that's not
What's
the
on the
best thing
front?
to get.
Is it USB on the front? Is there like one
there's
USB
more
on the front?
USB on the front and a headphone jack.
And no HDMI.
That's bizarre, isn't it? Why would you have display
Totally
port?
bizarre.
Well, I guess because Apple's Cinema displays have mini display port, which you could get an adapter for, and Thunderbolt.
You can get an HDMI adapter port to.
Yeah. I have display port to HDMI.
But that's more dongle. So you got this to get rid of the dongle.
It's a
now you need
dongle
more
with a
dongle.
dongle.
See, here's the thing. I still maintain that it's not pros are always going to have, like, I've had dongles for as long as I've had a MacBook. I've had DVI and VGA and HDMI and FireWire and all these. But this is the first time non-pros had to deal with USB A to USB-C, and they felt and experienced our pain, and that's where all this resentment has come from.
So I'll keep this here at the office so that I can bring the laptop in and then we just dock it and we can use it. But it doesn't. I'm actually thought it would have HDMI, so that's less useful, isn't it, John? We have adapters. We have Thunderbolt to HDMI. We have mini display or massive display port. I don't see. Yeah, that's odd. I just assumed. Maybe I should send it back. You think and get the eGPU. That has That has HDMI.
Yes.
Yeah, and Thunderbolt 3.
Plus, it looks cool.
It does.
This is Thunderbolt 3, though. That's
Like bow ties and fezzes, they look cool.
Yeah.
all right. Okay. I didn't spend enough, so I had to get a $200 piece of leather.
Return the piece of leather and get the eGPU.
Oh, there you go. If I had just not bought the piece of leather,
Oh, you can take it back. It's within 2 weeks.
I'll get the bring the Belkin and the leather back and get the eGPU for only $100 more. How about that? Now, how much would you pay?
Huh.
How expensive does a MacBook Pro have to be before they start including things inside the box instead of charging $15, $30, $50 for
There
cables?
used to be an extension cord. Remember that? And now you got to buy the extension cord separately.
That's not even free.
I know. It's super annoying.
That's but again, I think this is as to Alex's point. This is to an price insensitive market that just wants the power, and I bet a lot of pros are happy, with the exception of those who were waiting, got through WWDC with no hardware announcement, and then said, well, I guess I'll better buy my MacBook Pro now, and now are outside the 2-week return time, which must be fairly upsetting. Did Apple address that? Why didn't they say this a month ago? Why didn't they say this was coming a month ago or 6 weeks ago when they had WWDC?
They're not trying. There's no vaporware required. They don't generally want to announce anything that isn't shipping.
They still haven't shipped the charger.
Right. But they're trying to tell you that it's coming, and that way you don't buy something else. Same way with the don't keep on buying more Amazon, Echoes because we're going to put out a speaker.
Right.
Don't do this because we're going to put out this thing.
So they didn't
But
announce the MacBook Pro because they wanted to continue to sell the 2017s.
Also, it was unclear exactly. Intel's roadmap is so unclear right now that I think to certify those chips and get everything done, they probably didn't want to promise it and then not deliver it on top of everything else that they promised.
And also, they didn't need to.
Realize the i9 platform is what, 2.5 years old, 3 years old at this point? No, I think 2 years old. So
the i9?
Didn't they announce it in? I'm sorry, no, the.
What are you talking about?
Early 2017, the i9.
I thought that's a KB Lake. That's a fairly.
Well, this
new.
is the coffee. This is the Coffee Lake version.
Not KB. I'm sorry, Coffee Lake. I think it's fairly new. The 6-core.
But this is the first i9 we've seen in a MacBook Pro, haven't we?
Yeah, and we were supposed to be at Cannon Lake last year.
You're right. May 2017, the i9s were announced, but that's not that was Coffee Lake. Yeah. The mobiles were Coffee Lake. Okay.
But like Renee says, the Mac Pro line, particularly in this generation of Apple's tenure, it really is about they want screw you. This is fast.
Yeah.
They want like hold a raw egg within a foot of this and it becomes hard boiled in about 12 seconds. They really want that sort of this is a suspiciously fast machine. So if they had any Intel top line CPU that they felt could in any way work in a MacBook Pro, we would have seen it at least a generation ago. So that underscores what Ray keeps saying about.
Let me clarify. This mobile part, the Coffee Lake 14 nanometer part, i9, it was announced only in April. Which is exactly to your point, Renee. Which is that
I think Apple has the U I forget which one it is.
This is the 8950HK, $583 is the part, which also explains a little bit the price. This is an expensive part.
Yeah, I mean everyone's got to get their margins. It's been unclear sort of when it. I think also the Air Power. That part of that I think was Apple's announcing their first Qi devices. Right. And they wanted to show that they were deeply behind the Qi standard, and they intended to ship earlier, and it just hadn't worked out. They wanted it to be this. We're going to be here. We're not just doing this flopping thing. We're going to really help move Qi forward. Crap, this is hard.
No, I think Alex is right. Also, you don't want to Osborne your device, your computers by announcing the next thing too early.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to face facts that schedules that we thought were pretty easy to predict are now completely up in the air. It's not just the fact they have this new campus and they have demo areas and they have theaters that they can use whenever. I really think their philosophy now is that the only deadline that's kind of sacrosanct is new phones in September. Anything else than that, it's like, I suppose people are expecting them during WWDC, but what can you do? We're going to do it a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
And it's not good for the company to do things. Even the September announcement that we usually assume is not super good because that means that like in August people stop buying phones. Anyone who knows anything, anyone who's spending any time looking at iPhones is not going to in their right mind buy an iPhone in August. I mean, some people do, but it's because they broke it or dropped it in the water or something like that. And they just go out and buy another one, or they're not paying attention. They don't care. But anybody who's really going to go after that brand new phone stops buying them. And so I think that regularity it's good because it gives them a cycle to work on. But I think it becomes harder and so I think that with everything else other than the iPhone, which is really paying for everything, I think it makes sense for them to be unpredictable, to keep you just buying until they have something new.
I think I think their attitude isn't. iPhone, obviously, they have to get that out every year, and they feel real pressure, and would probably adversely affect the stock price if they didn't. But everything else, it's like I don't think they ever hold anything back. As soon as if it's not ready, they don't ship it. They wait till the next window to ship it. If it's a new product, it needs an announcement, so it has to wait till March or WWDC or September or October. If it doesn't, they do one of these things. Either it's a press release or a briefing or something else, and they just get it out as fast as they can.
Anything else to say about the new MacBooks? I'm pretty excited. Renee, have you done any benchmarking yet or anything like that?
I don't typically do benchmarking because sites like Anantech are so good at it that I don't want to do my weak ass version of it.
Yeah, I was going to do my weak ass version of it, but what I wanted to do is compare it to the iMac Pro because I think in some processes it'll actually be faster than the iMac Pro.
Yeah, and also for people who do, like, I know Marco likes to joke about putting his iMac Pro in a sling and going off to Starbucks, but bespoke boutique coffee shop
I don't actually think he's joking. I think he actually does.
I don't know.
I've seen pictures of people on the subway with iMac Pros in their lap as they go.
But for other people, they just want to be able to disconnect it and take it with them. And for them, the mobility is more important. So the portability is part and parcel with the performance.
I think that's why the eGPU is actually makes sense. That's when you're at your desk, you'll have something similar to an iMac Pro, but you can still then unplug it and carry it.
I'm blanking on the biggest message that a lot of the pros, and they'd all been using it for about 2 weeks, had is that it's similar to the iMac Pros, that they could get down to these real-time workflows.
Right.
One of the women models molecules for a university, and she was working on modeling the HIV life cycle. And she was saying with a previous MacBook Pro, the most she could do was VNC into her workstation to use Maya. And now she's doing everything but the final render on this MacBook Pro and Maya. And that to her was a huge convenience upgrade.
Nice. Yeah, the CPU that they're using, even let's see, Anand says it's the i7 is the 8750H. I don't see the let's see, 2018, maybe I don't see it. I'm just looking at Anand's article. Even they don't seem to have the part number for the i9. So, no, it is. It's the 8950HK. It's the one I was 17. i7 will be the 8750H. The i9 is the 8950HK. That's the only one Intel offers. So, all right. Let's take a break. Come back. There's still a lot more to talk about. The minute we ended the show last week, John Gianandrea, who was a very sharp hire from Google, received new assignments at Apple. We'll talk about that and a lot more. MacBreak Weekly has finally some Mac news to talk about. Our show today brought to you by Slack. I think Slack has changed the way people work. It's, on the face of it, it looks like a messaging program, but really what it is a collaboration hub for work. Whatever work you do, it keeps your team in the loop. The information the right people need is always there at the right time. Teamwork on Slack happens in channels, which means you organize conversations and information around projects, around offices, around teams, however you want. But the organization really is awesome. And of course, because your history is always there, there's never any question. It's better than email. It's the fastest, easiest way to get things done. Send less email, streamline your team's communication. All the tools and services you need are connected through Slack, so everything's in there. It allows you to organize your team with real-time messaging and video and voice calls, group file sharing, searchable archives, all in one, easy to use. And I don't think we should minimize this beautiful app. I think one of the reasons Slack is so popular, especially with, Macintosh folks, is it's just good looking. Slack saves time. It improves productivity. You don't have to switch across multiple tabs and platforms to keep updated with work. If you use Jira or Salesforce or Zendesk or Google Drive or whatever, you can drag and drop file sharing. You can tailor it to work with more than 1,000 apps. What you do is go to slack.com and just see some of the integrations available. There's also some fun stuff. There's lots of fun stuff. So there's a Borat one. And I was mad because when we were working with our web team, every time I typed "that's nice," which I typed a lot apparently, Borat would pop up and say "that's nice," and then there's my favorite plugin, which I want to duplicate in our ISC room, is a Jeopardy plugin, an Alex Trebek plugin that you can say "let's play Jeopardy." So awesome. So you can it's fun too, but mostly you're going to get things done with Slack. Your team is better connected. Learn more at slack.com. Just a big plug for one of the best apps for keeping things on track ever. Slack.com. Apple hired Google's head of search some time ago, John Gianandrea. He joined Apple in April. He'd been at Google since 2010, including bringing AI at Google to Google Assistant, to Gmail, to Google Search Knowledge Graph. Now Apple has announced that Gianandrea, who reports directly to Tim Cook, is, and this is on the company's leadership page, is now in charge of machine language and artificial intelligence and covering He's chief of machine learning and AI strategy. He's covering Siri and Core ML. So I think this is actually really good news. This guy is very sharp. And he has, by the way, a very good-looking Memoji.
Yes, he's just in time to be Memoji for it.
Is this going to be just today, or are they going to do this?
It's for World Emoji.
It is World
Day.
Emoji Day, as we know, because of the cupcakes. But, yeah, all of the Apple leadership is now Memoji'd. That's silly. That's really silly.
I have the exact opposite hair from Johnny Cerrugi.
But the hair seems to be the biggest distinguishing feature, frankly, on all of these.
They got to work on the eyes. They're super, super creepy, for one thing. When you see 11 sets of those children of the corn, children of the damned.
Johnny Ive, he's
can't
scary.
smile.
That's scary.
He just still can't smile.
Well,
there might be an amphetamine problem at Apple. That's what I'm worried about.
Wow.
I said might. We're legally covered. I'm saying might.
So just out of curiosity, you think Tim Cook designed his own, or do you think he had people who did that for him?
I don't know. I mean, I once saw him we once saw him take an iPad from the marketing team and do a hands-on demo for a bunch of people at an event. So he definitely is deep in how everything works.
I do notice they didn't get the board to do it. Like, you didn't get Al Gore to do a Memoji.
No.
Bob Iger didn't do a Memoji. The board is just,
but they would have. I think a lot of them would have.
Yeah, you're right.
If
you're on the board of Apple,
in fact, they're probably gonna be like, "Hey, why didn't you do a Memoji for us?
I want a Memoji." I love it.
We should have done the whole show as Memojis, Leo.
We should have. Well, it's still a possibility. So, anything to say about Gianandrea? I think this is good news. I think
he's great. I mean, he did a series of talks about the ethics of AI, and it seemed to be something he was deeply concerned about. It wasn't just like, because some people just care about engineering AI, but there's other people who care about how that AI is going to affect us and how it's going to be used, and about not just being pure AI, but being AI that works with and in collaboration with humans. And it seems like Apple was a really good fit just for his philosophy of AI. And at the same time, Apple really desperately needed leadership in that area. The Siri team has had issues for years, and the ML team was brand new, and it was sort of scattered across the company because different organizations, like the Silicon team, have been using AI for one thing, and the software engineering for another thing, and services again. And I always think when you have an owner, it's like when the App Store got an owner, even though it was Phil Schiller, longstanding Apple person, when one person is the front face of it and one person is responsible, all these longstanding issues seem to disappear. And I think it's the same thing for AI. Like, at the end of the day now, he is the person who's going to be held accountable for everything from Siri to machine learning to computer vision to natural language, all of those things. And that in and of itself, I think, motivates everyone to get it right.
Apple has released a fix to the. Oh, do you want to say something, Andy, before we?
No. Just quick comment that I think that there is a line between Apple cares about this or Apple doesn't care about this. They care about every product that they continue to make, but some things are a priority, some things are not a priority, and they need a product needs a cheerleader, or a service needs a cheerleader within the company to say, no, we're definitely going to do this and not this other thing. So that's why this is sort of an important hire.
I presume you've all installed the big update to iOS 11.4.1. I'm just checking to make sure. Oh, yeah. This is the one that makes it harder for law enforcement to access locked phones. We talked about it last week. Right after we did the show, security researcher Patrick Wardle noticed there was another fix. Apparently, Apple, we can only speculate, had added some code to appease the Chinese government. When you typed Taiwan into messages, or you got a message containing a Taiwanese flag emoji, the device crashed. It's basically a denial of service attack. It could have just been a coincidence.
Well,
but we do know the Chinese government does not recognize Taiwan and considers it.
I think wasn't the reporting on that Apple had introduced that code at the request of China, and they just did it quickly and they introduced a bug.
Oh, what was it supposed to do?
It was supposed to, again, China does not acknowledge Taiwan, so therefore the Chinese version of iOS, if you tried, it was supposed to basically suppress a Taiwanese flag, the word Taiwan, because Taiwan does not exist as a country, suppress the Taiwanese flag because, again, the Taiwan doesn't have a flag, it's part of China. So,
Yeah, Wardle traced the likely purpose of the buggy code, according to Ars Technica, to documented iOS behavior that hides the Taiwanese flag from the emoji menu or from being displayed on the screen when the region is set to China. I'm getting a little fed up with Americans and American companies appeasing dictators and authoritarian regimes. You know, it's time to stop doing that.
Especially because China is exceptionally pissy about Taiwan. Remember that I think it was Marriott Hotels. They did an update. They had some sort of a form or some sort of a web form where they just simply just used whatever module they used to populate a form with select your country. And because they just simply copied in this external module, it included Taiwan as one of these selectable pop-up lists. And China basically slapped them down super hard, turned off all access to Marriott's domain names through the Great Firewall of China. And not only did Marriott go, if I'm remembering correctly, the name of the hotel chain, not only did Marriott basically make sure that was removed from the web form, they had the most groveling apology.
They fired the guy too, didn't they?
Right.
Yes.
It was, we apologize for having caused such horrible offense to the government.
I'm really sad that these American companies are doing this. Of course, dictators overreact. That's what they do because they're authoritarian. And it's time for American companies to start deciding whether they I mean, you know what? Is it money more important than supporting free human ideals?
Yeah. Again, I'll just say, I will collapse my usual 15-minute rant down to 30 seconds. That it's becoming more and more important for Tim Cook to make it clear that there is a line that Apple will not cross. Yes. Because I'm for all we know, he's already taken very brave and very, very risky stands inside closed doors with closed meetings. But when we hear about this, that simply having a flag as part of an emoji kit is going to be such an incredible problem that they are removing it from 1 billion users, that makes us worry that, again, what if your country code is Turkey? We need to activate certain code that says, are you a journalist? Well, great. We're going to make sure we send all of your traffic and all of your contacts to the government to make sure that we can make you part of the next 500 journalists that get put into prison. So I don't think they would do that. But now we don't know where the line is. We have to make sure that Apple is now saying if they're going to do these things, I'm not saying necessarily every one of these things is wrong. I'm saying that we need to know where that line is, or that there is a line. Sorry, that was more than 30 seconds. But.
I'm with you 100%. It's becoming more and more important that we stand up to these authoritarian regimes, period. I understand it's 1 billion customers. Okay, so you're saying that money is more important. Okay, I got it.
Oh, and also it's the easiest. What you don't want the iPhone to become a tool of oppression, and that's exactly what can happen if you keep kowtowing to the whims of a government that wants to continue to surveil its people.
And also, and I want to keep being this guy, that once it happens in one country, it's easy for it to happen everywhere. And history shows us that you don't like it somewhere else, but you start doing it almost immediately. And once it happens in China, it'll happen in Europe. It'll happen in North America. It's one of those things that you can't let it get any beachhead into your thinking.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that to some degree, Apple has drawn some pretty hard lines about access to the phone, which we think is probably globally, it's not preventing access to the phone. It definitely doesn't do it in the United States. Probably doesn't do it in China. I think it looks like it's a lot more flexible on other things like getting rid of a flag. But I think that they're not capitulating 100% yet. I think that I think they're just looking at their market. I mean, it's a corporation. I mean, they're not. They're just making money.
Yeah, they're still going by the maxim that their standard boilerplate response is that our policy is to obey the laws and customs of the local region in which we operate. And one of the things that I have no doubt whatsoever that they are violently opposed to what our government is asking them to do to make sure that law enforcement can get into encrypted phones. But the question comes, what if, and this is such a wacky state of politics right now, what if they do pass a law saying that it is now illegal to have any sort of encryption on a device sold in the United States without some sort of provision for law enforcement to be able to get in there? Is Apple going to say, screw you, we're not going to do that? We're just simply not.
Well,
Yeah,
Russia already does that, by the way. Encryption's illegal in Russia. I don't know what Apple does about iPhones in Russia.
They negotiate that's their, so far that is their line in the sand, where they have, with the US, with France, with China, with everybody, is that they are agreeing to things like cloud and things like patriation of data, because they do not want any sort of backdoor put into their systems.
Yeah, and I mean, after all, not putting a Taiwanese flag in the emojis it's not a human rights issue, but
it is a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope. I'm returning this piece of junk $200 leather pouch. You convinced me. You shamed me into it.
Yeah.
I hope to hell they don't make a Hermes version.
Because it'll be $500. Let's talk about it. Let's cheer everybody up. New emojis. 70 new emojis coming to iOS. It's World Emoji Day. Happy World Emoji Day, everybody. Emojis are the greatest thing. You don't need the Taiwanese flag in your emojis. Come on.
If you go to the link on the Apple one, they have some nice animated ifs.
Yeah, this is from Apple's newsroom. So they've animated these. You can see now that people like me with gray hair are suddenly represented.
And you can get Daenerys Targaryen and Storm from the X-Men.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Have you found yourself not, like, when you're testing the new iOS 12? Have you noticed that you're not using other emojis nearly as much?
No.
Once you have Memoji.
Because you got Memojis? I don't use I noticed I haven't used a Memoji since I got iOS 12.
Oh, I use it all the time.
But
my biggest complaint is I don't. Yeah, but I don't. My biggest complaint is that I don't want sound. I need to have something that just says mute, because a lot of times, I just want to do facial expressions. You
can do an emoji without sound, can't you, Renee? You just have,
it does sound automatically, and I don't think you can get it. But I just want to do that surprise expression all the time. I know exactly what Alex means.
Yeah, so I do these funny. I'll do these funny. I find them much closer to how I feel when I do it myself. But you get all this ambient noise. So if you're at the airport or something like that, it all comes through, and then it just seems weird. Like when it didn't have any noise, it was fine. It's really weird when you're not making any noise and you're making facial expressions. It's just
should get a mute button. I'm going to file that radar. I'll file that radar, Andy. There you go, Alex.
If we wanted to do a show with Memojis, is there a way, Renee, we could replace you guys with the Memojis?
I think you can do it through FaceTime.
We'd have to use
FaceTime for each one of us.
FaceTime.
Yeah, once we all have the new FaceTime installed, we could do it easily.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, do you have iOS 12 installed?
It would be Karsten's problem at that point, is what I'm saying.
Then we'd have to use Macs on this end, because right now I think we use Windows machines. All right, we need three Macs. No, 4, because I'd have to be.
It would be a group call, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
We could do individual calls. That's what we need.
No, you could. Yeah, the same way you do it with Skype. You just give individual calls, do mix minuses back to each one, and we just do it otherwise.
Yeah, we have the capability of doing that.
Yeah.
We just need 4 Macs. We could probably cobble together 4 Macs. When's FaceTime for Mac out? Is it on Mojave?
It's just beta, right? It's just Mojave beta, right?
It's right now it's working a bit iffy, but we can give it.
Okay, well we'll wait. We'll wait till it's a little stable. Maybe to celebrate the release of Mojave, we'll do the whole show in Memojis.
Finally, a week I don't have to shave. I'm all for this.
And then, is there a way? Oh, Macs don't have Face ID, so how does that work?
Oh, that's true. It's only iPhone 10 that can do the Memoji.
You'd all need iPhone 10s.
We would have to. Yeah, we'd all have to be on iPhone 10s.
I have an iPhone 10. I can do that.
And then I could sit here, but I'd have to have an iPhone 10 in front of me.
Yes.
And
it'll be great.
You'd have to garbage map my head onto my body.
You'll be like one of those like the actors in an Avengers movie where the real thing is actually just you with like a bicycle helmet with like a phone, like a camera, basically in front of you, like on a goose arm. It'll be great. We can motion track you up.
I think we'll have to wait till Alex is in studio to do this.
The fewer people in the studio, the better.
No, that's right. We don't want him in studio, but we want his help.
Okay.
He put him in my office to do it.
Because you want to do internet. We'll want to do Ethernet to the phones.
Oh Lord, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, Ethernet to the phones, and then to get good audio, you want Ethernet to the phone, and then you want through the headphone jack, you want to use an XLR to XLR to TRRS connector.
Headphone
which
jack.
is easy to get.
Oh,
It might be- it
where's
might
the
be
headphone
simpler.
jack?
Might be simpler
Oh,
if
you don't
just
have a
like
headphone jack.
if Renee and I
Convert
just
it.
like sort of fly out to San Francisco and we do it in person. And
Well,
which would be the perfect Apple demo? We're actually physically in the same room together, but we're going to use an incredible amount of technology to do something heroically stupid
It's like
anyway.
when you and your girlfriend are playing World of Warcraft and messaging instead of talking.
That's actually how we used to do satellite calls at Tech TV. We just put the guy on the other side of the studio and pretend he was on a satellite.
It's
a lot cheaper.
When you've toured as many studios as I have, people still do that a lot.
Do they
Like
really?
there is a lot of when you see Sunday morning especially, you see all these shows, and if you've been in a lot of those studios, you're like, that's over in the corner.
But they do that probably to give them parity, so that I know it's a problem here. Even if we have one person in studio and two people on Skype, it's a little bit of a disadvantage for the people on Skype.
Well, they have a model. A lot of them have broadcast models. That this is the way when we're interviewing this person, they're going to come in this way.
Yeah.
We don't want them to, especially if we're going to do a one-on-one, we don't want to have it be, especially if you're doing like a conservative and then a liberal.
One of them doesn't want an advantage. Yeah.
Even if they're one after the other, you don't want to have one feel like they got brought in, and so they just put them both in the same box. And then they just do it that way every week for whoever is going to be interviewed.
Magic of television.
Insert,
which is a little less magic. So you think this is the Canadian emoji because it's so cold?
Yeah,
His face
that's
is
me.
blue. That's Renee in the winter.
See, I thought
Georgia
that was
is the one
Finnish
in the
emoji.
cape, and I'm the one in the.
Lobster, kangaroo.
Yeah.
These are Apple's versions of these, which actually are quite beautiful, very three-dimensional.
Now, can I make a prediction?
Yeah.
It might be based on my saying this. I would predict that sometime in the next revision, Apple is going to change the color of the lobster emoji so that it's like green and black and little streaks of blue. Because red is the color of a cooked lobster, and most lobsters are cooked like while alive, which is cruel. I'm guessing that I think that if someone has not already thought about this, if this gets out because I've talked about it, I would not be shocked if they decided to change it as a really, really subtle thing to say, let's change all cruelty to animals and remove them from the emoji list.
Oh man.
There's been like quasi protests about that since the spec for the new version of emojis have been released. I think people were complaining about it.
It's going to ruin the whole hotel chain. You got a whole hotel chain.
Red lobster.
I've always said nothing. I fully respect people who are vegetarians and vegans and all that other sort of stuff. But I'm saying that if there's no better proof that the lobster was meant to be eaten, it's a one-step cooking process and it changes color when it's done. God meant for us to. You can have every other creature. I think clearly God meant for us to eat this one creature.
Apple, I've downloaded all of the JPEGs of these emojis, and I'm loading them up all at once, and it's kind of an interesting experience. Do you think making these emojis is either the most fun job at Apple or the most tedious? That I had no idea how to make a mechanical pencil fit in with this design aesthetic. Why am I doing a mechanical pencil? We have a pencil already. Well, they, of course, the Unicode group that does emojis gives you a reference design, which is usually fairly ugly, and so then you can take that.
Wasn't there
as a starting
controversy
point.
today because Google said they're moving away from the glob, and then all of Google Reddit said, "I am the glob, and the glob is me. I am the glob, and the glob is me."
Oh God, Reddit. What will we?
Speaking
ever
of which,
do?
we were just in the middle of a Google outage. It's just beginning
now?
to abate. Yeah, Google App Engine and Cloud and whatever. Sorry, Google Cloud. All the logins were down. You just couldn't
Something's
log
going
into
on over there at Google because during the one of the semifinals of the World Cup, I lost Google TV at YouTube TV for like an hour.
And then Amazon yesterday. I mean, we used to be able to rely on
what's
this
going on
internet
with
thing.
Amazon? Yeah,
We used to be able to
Amazon.
rely on this.
Amazon Prime Day overwhelmed Amazon.
And CNN was down this afternoon. So
Well, keep in mind that we were warned last week that we are under our infrastructure is under active attack.
Is it the Ruskies?
That's been on my mind since that notice last week.
Yeah, they said they were getting the same kind of chatter they got before 9/11. Oy, oy, oy.
It seems incredible that Amazon would go down on its own because of its own fault on Prime Day.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have more bandwidth than God.
Yeah,
they run the bandwidth for everybody else.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
So Renee, I'll give you a plug. I don't know if this is going to be your pick of the week for Thrifter, but I'll give you a plug because you guys are doing a great job. Have you gone in the war room? Are they like smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee? Or
an absolutely amazing team. They often get to. I don't know if they did this time, but for Black Friday, they all got a room together, a condo together, and they were just nailing it. But they literally they go through, they check every deal. And again, I don't want to plug my own stuff here, but they check every deal. They check the historic prices. They make sure it's a real deal, not a lie deal, that there's actually quantity available, and they update it constantly. And they are like super passionate about it.
Yeah. This is awesome.
Yeah.
What's the website?
And they're doing Thrifter.
Thrifter.com.
And they have a Canada version too. So you can there's a Thrifter Canada, and I think a Thrifter UK now as well. I think we launched that in time. Yeah.
Wow, look at that. Yeah. So there's some good prices on here. There's some good stuff. But you got to know if it's a good deal or not. And that's where Thrifter, and we'll mention, of course, the Wirecutter is also doing this. Yeah. Combine them both. And, finally, I can throw the old Rubbermaid Easy Find 60-piece set out and get the new ones. Yeah. It's a must-have. It says...
Like, again, I mean, like buy what you want, but I always recommend, like, if there is stuff that that you want, look for the sales for that stuff, because it's very easy to get caught up in it. And especially now when people are begging for a distraction from real life. But if there are planned purchases you have, check to see, because not just Amazon, but like Walmart, a lot of companies trying to counter program Amazon. So check around. You can get some really good deals on the stuff that you want.
Yeah,
absolutely. That we've already. I think Alex and I have already gotten a couple of thank yous or at requests for. Okay, the Anova Sous-vide cooker that you keep talking about was actually it was like down to $80. So a lot of people are buying them, and I think it's great. Alex said, "Well, here's a steak tips with garlic and butter and da 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 da." And I said, "Okay, we'll get a microwave burrito from the store and use that as your first."
I bought my Anova on Prime Day last year because of you guys. Yeah, I got a good deal on it.
I bought a second one.
I use it all the time. Yeah,
I have a couple.
Well, I have two because I have the Mellow as well, and there have been times when I've got two things going. I did it. By the way, little tip for anybody. I'll give you a tip for anybody who has a Trader Joe's around. They have practically sous vide ready, marinated, like we got a spatchcock chicken and brine. We got I get their tri-tips, and they're already in the marinated, and they're in a vacuum sealed bag. You throw it in the sous vide. Yep. I did a Trader Joe's tri-tip for 24 hours, and then we threw it on the grill for a couple of minutes just to brown it on each side. And that thing is the best thing I ever had in my life. It's like butter.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, my the first time I did that, Safeway has them as well. They have these like marinated, and I got one in the morning and I just threw it in, and then that evening, it was years ago, but I brought it out and I cut it up, and when my Carlita made all of the other stuff. So she made the potatoes and everything else, but she didn't really do a lot. She just kind of threw something together, microwaved it, and put it out. And as soon as she took a bite out of the steak, she was just like, "Well, if I knew you were going to put this much work into it."
I slaving all day over a hot.
I literally I bought a bag and I threw it into the water, and then I turned the grill on, and then that was it.
I know.
It's so good. But
it was amazing. I cooked it at 135 degrees, so it's medium rare. It was pink on the inside. It was perfect. And because tri-tip can be kind of tough and stringy, it's after 24 hours, it's beautiful.
Yeah, my wife, Carlita loves, she insists that the tri-tips are at least 24 hours. Like, she's now used to it. Like, she does not want me to, she's like, it's only been in for 8 hours. I really think we should just wait until tomorrow. We'll have that for dinner tomorrow.
Yeah, because if you look online, it's everything from 2 hours to 4 days. There's a lot.
So hungry right now.
I know. I'm
so
sorry.
hungry.
Now, I did forget one of those. I forgot a tri-tip. You remember the original sous vide was like a box that was like, it was a metal box that was closed, and it didn't make any noise at all, and it just sat there. And I put a tri-tip in, and then I forgot it. And when I came back like 3 weeks later, because I was traveling, I came back like 3 weeks later, and it was liquid. Like, just in case you're wondering what happens to a steak when you leave it in the sous vide, it just turns into this liquid mush with little bits of things floating around.
It breaks down the protein. Usually, you want to get it out before, like, unless you're going for like a 24-hour brisket, you want to get it out within like 3 hours. But what I love about it is that there are times where, like, I'm doing fancy cooking, and I'll use the sous vide because, again, it makes me look really, really good. All the meats come out great. Everything comes out wonderful. And I also use it for, again, my freezer is usually filled with black beans black beans and chicken breasts that I cooked like on Sunday, vacuum sealed, tossed in the freezer. Stuff like a General Powell's chicken in bulk you can get in the grocery store that I then like parcel out into like swincing portions. So if you just anything that's like been cooked and is frozen, you can reheat it perfectly in the sous vide. And so it's both for the fancy cooking and also I've been working from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. I don't want to think about cooking anything. I want to open a bag, dump that bag into a plate or a bowl, eat it, and then move on with my life. So it's better. It's you make your own lean cuisines with it, and they're better.
We ragged on Apple, so let me give them some credit. Apple partners with the Malala Foundation. They're going to fight for equal opportunity in education for girls in Brazil. They put some significant dough into this, so thank you, Apple, for. See, I think I don't know if that makes up for it, but I know that they care, and that's good. Apple's being sued over the do not disturb while driving technology. SMTM Technology says, "Oh no, we have a patent on driving detection and automated responses." The patent is mobile device inactive mode and inactive mode verification, granted to inventor Nick Bovis in 2015. He applied in 2014. Of course, Bovis doesn't own it anymore. SMTM acquired the patent and is now going after Apple. Bovis created an off-mode application for Android in 2013. So it is actually a fairly similar patent. When the Android device was connected to a Bluetooth system, the app would temporarily block calls, text messages, and notifications that could distract a driver. It is true. I've been aware of stuff like this on Android for some time. This company says we have the patent. So seems like Apple probably should. It's not exactly a patent troll in this case. It is a non-practicing entity, but there was something that did exactly the same thing. Apple has killed an app in the App Store called Q-Drops, which was basically a conspiracy theory app based on the Pizzagate, and it would, I guess, push notifications out. Developer of Q-Drops, a husband and wife team out of North Carolina. The app was 99 cents. It's also on the Google Play Store and is still there. Q-Drops' Twitter account is active. Apple, it's interesting because Apple, clearly approved it in the first place. There's no secondary use for this.
And every company is going to start to get under much, much tighter scrutiny, similar to what Google and Twitter and Facebook are coming under, to make sure that, okay, well, you approved this app, and this is being used by a foreign agent to sow disinformation during an election year. What are you doing to make sure that can't happen again, that the people who say that they wrote this app are actually the people who wrote this app? And how closely do you monitor every single thing that goes on inside this to make sure that, this is going to be part of the business if you're running any sort of operation that puts things on phones at scale, including app stores?
Incidentally, Facebook still has InfoWars on its site. As a news source. And InfoWars is as crazy. If InfoWars is Alex Jones' fake radio show.
A spokesperson explained that there are people on the left and on the right that are news sources sides. That are doing
both sides. Yeah. One of Alex's my favorite Alex theories is that there is a slave colony on Mars that is run by the U.S. government.
He is such a. He screwed up one of our shows, and so I have to admit. He
did. How did he do that?
On the show. We were doing streams, and you're just very clear that he doesn't believe in anything.
No.
He just is out to get
it's a money maker
to get
for him.
not get eyeballs and make money.
Yeah.
But he's the guy, just for, whatever we're just doing a show, and I'm not going to get into exactly what the show was, but it was just a regular show, and he just came storming into it, like literally just storming into the middle of a show while you're recording, and spitting on everybody while he's yelling, and like just a complete mess.
In person, he came in and yelled. It was yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
Maybe he does. Maybe he's just nuts.
It was amazing. He is borderline nuts, but I think it's all just an act. I think he's just he's just out for eyeballs and out. I mean, he's just taken that performance, experience to to its end point. Of I don't think there's anything he believes in. And I try to stay out of saying political stuff on, and I don't have anything about his politics. I'm just saying he personally is an idiot.
Both these things can be true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Adobe says we're going to put real Photoshop on the iPad maybe next year.
Why, Leo? That's interesting timing. What could possibly have happened?
What is your theory, Renee Ritchie?
I have a feeling that mobile-first companies with much newer code bases made the laptop.
Somebody like
iPad.
Maybe Affinity Photo.
Yeah, maybe. And it radically reframed the universe for them.
Pixelmator.
Where they understood that,
Yeah, and actually what's really going to fry Adobe's bacon is when Serif or Skylum or one of those companies comes out with a digital asset management part to their stuff. I think Affinity could be really an interesting competitor if they do that, because that's the one thing that nobody still does is handle photographs as well as Lightroom in terms of organization.
Triage, not just organization.
Right.
You come up with 1,000 pictures. Where are the 13 that you actually want to do something with?
Yeah, but that's why I had to buy an iMac Pro and a $6,000 laptop, because it takes so long on an Lightroom. It's just terrible.
Isn't it great that even in this day and age, there's still an excuse to say, oh, that's going to take a while. I'll go out and get waffles and then come back.
No, but that's the problem is you can't, because you're going through your photos. So one, okay, yeah, that's a good one. Next one.
You don't just like let them stew for a little while.
Oh, maybe
and then,
it's taking a while to make the smart
previews. I usually wait for it to finish building previews, and then it's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, let it do all those previews first. That's a smart idea.
That was the biggest complaint about the new MacBook Pro, is the guy who did the environmental photography. And he said previously he'd put something on to render, get up and go get a coffee, and I put it on to render. And as he was getting up, it finished. And he's like, "This is great for my workflow. It's terrible for my coffee."
That was your line. I loved that line. I read that. That's funny. Terrible for my coffee. Let's take a break. When we come back, I think you guys could help us out with some picks. What do you say? Picks of the week.
Can do.
Coming up next.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan, my friend.
Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. Buying a home is a big deal, right? Biggest check you'll ever write, for sure. Biggest purchase you'll ever make, and something you're going to be living in for quite some time. You want to make sure you do it right. You don't want to be pressured to find the right house too fast. And with interest rates going up, maybe that's exactly what's going on for you. Hey, if we don't buy this house now, it could cost us more next month and the month after and the month after. Don't worry. Don't worry. The best lender in the country, Quicken Loans, the biggest as well, has a solution. No more anxiety with the power buying process. Here's how it works. First of all, Quicken Loans will verify your income, your assets, and your credit. As you know, we've talked about this with Rocket Mortgage, and give you a verified approval in less than 24 hours. Now, what does that do? Well, that is already a great feeling, because when you make an offer, the seller treats it as cash because they know you're good for it. There's no contingency. I've got the loan. Give me the house. So that's awesome. But here's the best part. Once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. They'll lock your rate up for up to 90 days while you shop. You have 3 months to look at a house with no fear of the rate going up. It can't. You're locked in at that rate. If it goes down, yeah, they'll lower it, but they won't raise it. So you win either way. It's kind of amazing. It's the thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. Take the anxiety out of home shopping. Go in there loaded and ready to buy. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. Rate Shield approval is only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. It's rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. And we thank them for their support over the last couple of years for keeping MacBreak Weekly on the air. Let's start with the expensive stuff. Alex Lindsay, your pick of the week.
Mine isn't that expensive today.
Oh, no.
So I'm actually recommending a book. A good friend of mine is a guy named Andy Beach, and there's a few people that I call when I'm like. So a lot of people talk to me about live streaming. When I needed some input on encoding, there's really two people, Colleen Henry and Andy, who are the two people that I really go back to talk to about, issues that I might be dealing with and on encoding and so on and so forth. So Andy put out a new edition of his book on encoding, video compression handbook, and it's just the best one out there. And if you're trying to figure out how to, this is my Bible to figure out, think through processes and how it works and how we might change it, whether it's encoding for VOD or live, just really understanding, what's going on there and how it works. If this is something you're interested in, that's the Bible. So it just came out last week. So I figured I would let people know. New versions out there.
Video Compression Handbook, second edition. You can get it on Amazon in paperback, $49.99. Andy Beach and Aaron Owen. All right. I'll get a copy for our engineers because
it's a must-have in the technical library. Yeah, absolutely. Great.
Andy and Akko, pick of the week.
My new favorite app in the entire world.
Whoa.
It is an app for the iPad called LiquidText. And what the simple slug is that this is a PDF reader, but it isn't. It is for reading. If you're in a job that requires an immense amount of having to read, research, and take notes and extract from that stuff what's important, I have not found a single app that is. It's like they listen to me grumbling every night that I've been up for 8 hours downloading more PDFs of like most. It seems like a huge amount of my work over the past 2 or 3 years has been having to like download PDFs of court cases and indictments. Last night I was reading the 3-page Miller indictment, preparing for another public radio thing on Thursday. And the thing is, it's pages and pages and pages long, and then you just want to say, "Ooh, that could be important," and then basically clip that out so I can take a look at it later on. It allows you to really easily just simply select something and not even formally saying, "Oh, please make a note about this and tag it such and such." I can just simply drag it into this gutter and then make connections between these things and export that out to something else. It works most obviously on PDFs, but it has a built-in web browser, so you can just simply browse to a web page, then basically use these same features here. Again, just basically trying to do your research and taking notes on what you need to learn from here, reorganizing things. It is so simple but so powerful. And all these little touches that they do, it is one of the most well thought out, well considered multi-touch iOS apps. Like there are times where I'm on page like 53 of some sort of technical spec, and I'm saying, wait a minute, they said that they're working with the LPR-LC. What is that? Or did they mention that at the very top of the document? So you can basically hold down one finger on the document and then use your index finger to scroll back, and now there's 2 panes, and you can basically be looking through 2 sections of the document at once. Comparing 2 documents is really easy. It'll import Word files, it'll import text files. It really has become, given how much I now have to pretend to know everything about live on the radio in 30 seconds or less, 30 minutes or less. Nothing has come close to making it so easy to get through 8 hours of reading and feel like you've gotten out all of the information and all the comprehension you need to get. 90% of its features are free. I think it's something like $10, maybe. I can't remember if it's 10 or 30. All I know is that I was so appreciative after using it for a week that I just simply said, I don't even care about the extra features. I just want you to have some of my money. So if part of your job is, if this is not the PDF reader for like marking up tests and putting notes in margins saying A+, but run a spell check the next time. It's not about like just signing documents. There are other things that are more flexible like that. It's not going to let you draw a sketch about what you think that on a page of an architect's plan to say, oh, I think that the patio should go here. It really is optimized for the process of, I've got 100, 200, 300 pages of digital research that I need to read through, process, and turn into information that I will understand, and will help you get through that so quickly and so easily.
There is an enterprise version of it for $30, but you're talking about the basic LiquidText, right?
Basic for LiquidText, I think, yeah, exactly. That's the $30 version. For $10 more, I think that there's subtle features like creating your own like sort of flows through the text, which is a feature I haven't really understood yet. I honestly, over the past month, I haven't really gotten to the bottom of even all the features that you get with the basic version. But like I said, download it, try it out, and it really is one of those great apps where at the end of the first hour you're like, oh, there you go, found it, this is what I wanted.
Nice.
It was logical that someone must have written an app to do this, because it's such a basic need and all the other apps are only like halfway good at it. There must be an app for this, and it turns out that there is one. It's called LiquidText.
So it's more, it allows you to combine other documents into the PDF as well.
Right. So I think that's one of the bonus features. If you want to create like projects of here's like 24 related files, and here's all the research I'm doing on each one of these things, and then you can go into a text editor and create your own organization, create your own structure, create your own labels. But again, just for the simple idea of here's the 30 pages of the indictment. How does the FBI know that it was the Russians and not just it was the Russian government and not just some Russian people who sold information to the government? How did they get in? And like, you're pulling all these things. Here's the detail from this. I'm going to have to quote that. I'm going to have to take a look at that. I don't understand how this works. I'm going to look into that.
And you can export it, including the workspace and documents, as a single PDF, which is really cool. Because then I could do all this research and put it into something like Devon Think, so I'd have it. That's nice. Yeah, sounds.
And it pops it out as text, or depending on how you do the selection, you'll either pop it out as straight text so that you can then incorporate it into another document, or it'll incorporate it as sort of like an image of that section of the document. So it's very, very flexible. Again, what I love about it is that it's super, super powerful, but the interface is minimal, and they keep focusing on what kind of gestures can we incorporate into that the user is probably going to discover on their own, and once they discover it, they're not going to have to be reminded about how it works.
Yeah.
Really, really great. Well job. This really is such a great demo of everything that's good about iOS. And to be frank, when I was learning, when I was getting some information about the new cheap Surface tablet, it's like that Windows tablet is very, very nice. It's wonderful to get Windows on such a compact, inexpensive multi-touch device. But Windows' problem is always going to be that they don't have people in the Windows developer community that are developing apps that are as interesting and well executed and as natural for the tablet format as LiquidText.
Nice. Very cool. You know, what I've been doing lately, I realized now that you can use with iBooks, you can use iCloud to sync your iBooks library to all your devices, is I've been slowly importing I have a lot of EPUB books, but I also have in my library a ton of, on my desktop, a ton of PDFs for manuals of things.
Yep.
And I've just imported them all into iBooks, and now it syncs them. So this is my iBooks. So using this in conjunction would be great too, because then I could take a LiquidText document and put it in iBooks. Yeah. That's why I like the idea that you can export it as a single PDF. Of course, if you're doing it on an iPad, you don't have to worry about that. But
that is a wonderful tip. Like every time you get something that has a PDF manual, before you throw out the boxes that this new camera came in, put the PDF for that, because the number of I've had my camera for 3 or 4 years, but there's times where I really want to do a time lapse. I've never done a time lapse before. How do you do a time lapse? And now, because I have a PDF and iBooks, we can figure it out.
It's so awesome to have it in iOS. Yeah, now it's on everything I use. I love that. Renee Ritchie, pick of the week.
So mine is a repeat pick, I believe, but it's something I carry with me when I travel. And again, I was at Pokemon Go Fest this weekend, where I was away from power for an extended period
Does
of time.
that have an HDMI port? Oh, no, it's just a battery.
No, it has USB-C, so you can actually use it for your MacBook and MacBook Pro. It won't, of course, you can't keep up with a MacBook Pro, but it can give you some extra juice. It's like 1,000 hours on an iPhone, though. And when you have multiple people with you, especially, it's just fantastic. You charge it up. I use my MacBook Pro power adapter to charge it. I brought 2 of these with me. One of us had one with us at each time, and we just plugged in whatever phone needed it, and it was fantastic. We never got below 3. This has 4 levels on it when you get to those 100 hours. I guess 24 hours per charge, and we got down to 3 of them. And it worked. It was a workhorse. It's got a soft touch finish on it. It does fit. If you have a pocket like me or Dalrymple that fits an iPad mini, it'll easily fit one of these. And I just keep it plugged in, put it in my phone when it needs it, and never slow down or never stop. And it's just so much power in one little package, Leo.
I am going to mention, I already did, an anti-pick.
Yes.
I really wanted to think that this would somehow be magically worth $200, this MacBook Pro leather sleeve. And it isn't. The leather isn't magical. There's nothing special about it, especially when for 1/10 the price, you can get this. This is what I'm going to keep my $6,000 MacBook Pro in. This is the TomTalk 360 protective sleeve for a 15-inch new MacBook Pro with Touch Bar. It has little rubber, soft little rubber padding inside. It's got a pouch for the power supply. It does, it's my thought is I'm not going to carry this around. It doesn't have a handle. This is the sleeve that the MacBook's going to go in then it goes into my backpack or whatever else I'm going to carry in it. That was what I was going to get the leather sleeve for, but this is much more protective. And at 1/10 the price, I think probably something I will keep. And I'm going to trade in, let's see, 200 plus 300. I think I can trade in those 2 things and maybe just a little bit more, get an eGPU. Why not, right?
Do it.
Yeah, the Belkin, that's a little disappointing. The Belkin doesn't have an HDMI. That was totally the point of it, was to have it here so we could have the HDMI connected. It's a little bit of a missing feature. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this edition of MacBreak Weekly for the first time with Macintosh news in about a year and a half. Rene Ritchie is at imore.com. That's where you can find all his great stuff, including the great Vector podcast, where he talks about the new MacBook and a lot more. imore.com/Vector. Thank you for being here, Rene. I have so many Pokemon Go questions.
Okay, we'll do a special show.
We'll have to do a special. I just learned. I finally read some of your stuff. For the last 2 years since Pokemon Go came out, I always thought you were supposed to throw the ball when the circle was at the smallest. You're supposed to throw the ball when the circle's at its biggest.
So, I mean, the smaller the circle, the bigger the bonus you get for it, but you should target the size that you can hit most reliably.
Yeah, because you
always
want to be
miss
nicer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice,
good, excellent, nice, great, excellent, but you want whatever you can hit reliably.
So you get more, what kind of points? Experience points if you do a small?
No, it's a catch. So every this is deep dive. Every Pokemon has a base capture rate. Some is like 3%, some is 10%, and you get a bonus percentage. So it's like 1.3 times if you get, I think it's 1 point.
You're more likely to catch it if the circle is small?
Yes, you get if you do a curveball, it's 1.5 modifier. If you use a raspberry, it's 1.5. Golden Raz, I think, is 2.5. And then if you do if you get the excellent, I think it's 1.5 again on top of that.
See,
it all multiplies up.
I read the fine article at imore.com/Pokemon-Go about how to catch them all.
Awesome.
And as you can see,
you got to go more towards the edge of the screen, Leo.
Clearly my curveball is just this little mice is going to get away for sure. Oh. And then, by the way,
I recommend throwing left.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, maybe I should. I'm a righty. I'm a lefty, though. So maybe the other thing is the iPhone 10 is a bad choice for Pokemon Go because half the time I slide up and close the back.
It's also narrow, and Niantic is not always they don't always put the effort in. And so all they did was instead of making the frame, instead of painting the frame bigger, they just cut off the sides. So it's a very narrow experience.
Yeah. No, I tend to play on my Pixel 2 XL, which is a little wider. But I'm having so much fun, and you and I are great friends. Again, apologies to all the people who tried to befriend Renee and me. We are maxed out. So I keep getting friend requests, but both Renee and I, and now my wife Lisa, We're all at 200 friends. We can't get any more, and we can't apologize.
George and I ended up walking 7 miles to complete the quest on Saturday, but we did it. She was intent.
You went to Chicago, right?
Yeah, we crushed that quest, Leo.
Oh man, I'm so jealous.
I think that whenever you talk about Pokemon with Renee, you have to address him properly as Coach Richie.
Coach Richie. Coach Richie. Happy World Emoji Day, Coach Richie.
Thank you so much.
This poop pile is for you.
Yes.
Andy Anako, you'll find him at ihnatko.com. He's also that on Twitter. Thank you, Andrew.
Yep.
Great to see you again.
And going to be on WGBH radio again, public radio on Thursday, probably talking about the Mueller probe and lots of stuff I had to study for the past 3 days using this wonderful iPad.
And you know how he'll be doing it now, a little behind the scenes.
Yes.
And Alex Lindsay joining us from the nation's capital. I don't know what you're doing there, but I hope it's important. Pixelcore.com. Best thing to do, follow him on Twitter, AlexLindsay. That's where he announces everything.
And I'll be in DC a lot for the next. It seems to be a busy time in DC.
Lots to do.
Yeah, so I'll probably be in DC a lot over the next. We'll probably do some kind of meetup. So definitely follow me on Twitter, and I'll let people know where to go.
Excellent. Thank you all. And thank you all for being here. If you want to be here in studio, I had a great studio audience. Just email tickets@twit.tv. We'll put a chair out for you. You can also watch on the live stream, twit.tv/live. Just remember, you're watching us make the show. The show itself is a download. You can subscribe in your favorite podcast application. Get a copy of MacBreak Weekly the minute it's available every Tuesday afternoon, or watch us stream it live Tuesdays at around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You can also download audio and video. We do both for everything we do at Twit. Audio and video available at twit.tv/mbw. Thanks for being here. Now, get back to work, because break time is over.